Hello everyone, good evening. Welcome to this live stream. I hope everyone can hear me properly. If anyone can comment, please, just to make sure everything is okay before we continue. Perfect. Amazing. So I want to talk about a couple of things today. One of the most important things that I want to talk to you about, and then I'll open the space for you to join in the conversation, share your thoughts, and ask any questions. Let me know what you think. We obviously had a couple of developments that I spoke about in a different video. You can watch it after the live stream about Blinken. I can tell you a little bit about it. Being prevented from visiting Karm Abu Salim in Gaza. They don't like this guy a lot in the Israeli government, and he tried to meet with the IDF chief yesterday when he came in. Thank you so much for your generosity, IG to me. Barakallahu fikum. Thank you very much, anyone sending super thanks and everyone greeting. And I will get to all of you in a sec. He wasn't, and Daniela as well, he wasn't welcome to go and visit because Israel didn't confirm that they are able to prevent people from protesting against him. People were waiting for him to protest against him, against Blinken. The State Department said that they wouldn't support an operation of Israel in Rafah. They've been trying to have a mass operation in Rafah. They're being banned. They're being at least rejected from the US. Obviously, Egypt also rejected this too. So it's complicated. They're going outside of what America wants. Usually America previously used to have a bit of a say when it comes to Israeli operations. Clearly now, the only thing they can do is when they act, when they actually stop supplying weapons, the weapons that they need, and all of these things. That's from Blinken's side. The main thing that I want to talk about, a couple of things, a couple of main things, really. Number one, we've had some stats released by the resistance regarding the levels of Israeli machinery destroyed wholly or partially in Gaza. Yesterday, I said there was 1,000. Now, today, 1,100. Today, they said it's 1,108. So I was a bit close yesterday. So Al-Qassam Brigade said that they destroyed 1,108 Israeli military machinery with Yasin 105 missiles produced in Gaza. Ali Mutahir, thank you so much, brother. 962 tanks, 55 soldier carriers, 74 bulldozers, 3 diggers, and 14 military vehicles. And Israel is talking about an accomplishment and a victory, and they're talking about them destroying all of Hamas's brigades, Benjamin Netanyahu said yesterday. We had a very important update from Lebanon too. Israel carried out a targeted strike in Lebanon. Hizbullah still hasn't confirmed if it was one of their leaders, but there are talks about that it's a military leader from Hizbullah. Hizbullah retaliated. And their level of retaliation suggests that the person who was killed was indeed from Hezbollah. Why? Because they attacked with Burkan missiles, 500 kg warhead, half a ton. These things, when they land, they cause a lot of damage. They can one bomb can destroy a whole base. And they also targeted. So this was launched on Branit base in Israel. They also attacked the northern Air Command in Israel in Miron, Har Miron, or Jabal al-Jamraq in Arabic, with Falaq missiles that were supplied from Iran. That's when it comes to Lebanon. And the main interesting thing that I want to talk to you about is the Hamas official, Osama Hamdan, from Lebanon. And I will get to all of your comments, and we will start talking together. Osama Hamdan had an interview with Al-Manar that belongs to Hezbollah. He said that the operation Al-Aqsa flood, it began the operation of the liberation of Palestine with Tufan Al-Aqsa flood. He said that Israel as an entity has no future in the Middle East. He also added that those betting on it are losing. The resistance axis had a great achievement in supporting the Palestinian people and the resistance in Gaza. And the US is responsible for all of the conflicts in the Middle East and not just in Gaza. Why is he saying that when we're about to reach a deal? There are several reasons. Number one, it's not deviating, it's not going away from the core aims of Hamas, which is to liberate Palestine altogether. They have always made that as their main mission, and they're still sticking to it. Also, what Netanyahu is saying isn't helping. What Benjamin Netanyahu is saying when it comes to the fact that we're continuing the war, we're going to completely destroy everyone, while after saying we already destroyed them, imagine the lies, this big liar. Trabzon, thank you very much. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. So Hamas are telling them, okay, you want to make statements, we'll make statements. Okay, we want to end the occupation. We want to liberate Palestine. And obviously liberation of Palestine in accordance to their charter, at least, ending occupation, having equality for Palestinians, contemporary and historical rights of the Palestinian people. So that's the main topic of today. And now I'll start going through your comments, and if anyone has any questions, I will happily start answering them now. Peter Larson, I'm sorry if I mispronounced it. Hello, my friend. You do great reporting on the great developments. Do you ever speculate on what is the future of Palestine or possible futures? Yes, Peter. I mean, I think the future holds good things, but as with many good things, they don't come unless there's a lot of pain and sacrifice involved. And what happened in the last 4 months, I think it just accelerated in many ways the end of apartheid Israel as we know it. So any future in that land that will not be or will not have a core of equality, historical rights, and contemporary rights for the Palestinian people will be temporary. And when we talk about rights, we talk about rights for citizenship between the Jordan River and the sea, primarily, equality, political equality of rights, and the rights of the Palestinian refugees to return to their lands. We need to solve all of these things. And obviously then it'll reach to housing and all of these things and compensation. But as long as these things are not solved, we will have a continuous conflict. Now, we might have temporary deals like we did have before. There were many temporary deals. We've witnessed them. But the main reason that I wrote my book is to kind of support the movement of a one-state solution, that many people call for, and bring it more to life with actions that can be implementable on the ground. So I hope that clarifies. Mora, Nonlinear, Ahmad, Anon, hello everyone. And Oryx the Taken King. Sam Dub, what up, OG? Alhamdulillah as-salam. Allah ysalmak. Elizabeth, hello from Spain. Hello to everyone in Spain. Ahmad Ali, hi from Iraq. Hayakum Allah from Iraq. Khalid Razak from UK, Iraqi origin. Welcome, everyone. Awesome, F-Mag, Saeed, Sam Dub. Does the IDF smoke meth or snort it? I mean, we know that Joe Biden's son was caught on crack, you know. So I'm not sure what these people use. Peter Larson, another question. Why does it matter if there were protesters? Israel can drive armored personnel carriers, even take them in a helicopter. Doesn't seem like a real reason. Clearly, of course, they would have excuses, but they would portray them as something else. Like they must have had a very bad confrontation when he tried to speak with the IDF chief on his own. But we deal with what's given. But also, he didn't want humiliation when it came to Gaza as well. Gompsy, hello. Excellent. Let's see if we have any other questions. Poppy Fields, Duchess of Muchless. Israel planes that usually carry soldiers have been landing in the UK since October the 7th. Yeah, we've heard about 90. Because don't forget, they have a military allegiance with Israel, support Israel, which is shameful. You know, but it's not surprising whatsoever. Joe K, is it possible that a game is being played which US plays good cop and Israel plays bad cop? To an extent. I mean, the US administration, they showed in very many cases their discontent, their unhappiness with Israel. But, you know, they are strategically allied together. They're in a very strategic relationship. The question is, how much more will the US will be able to tolerate Israel, and have they already made themselves untenable? And it appears to be the case. .007 Kyle, salam from California. Hello to everyone in California. Kate, question, is hummus proposal, did you do that deliberately? Hummus proposal include West Bank or this only in Gaza? Well, tomorrow, that's an interesting thing for you to know. Israeli media, we haven't had a confirmation from Arab media yet, unless something just happened now very recently, that Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian Authority president in the West Bank, is going to Qatar to have discussions. These discussions will most likely include Hamas. The reports in Israel said that they're going to be talking about the day after in Gaza and the potential of a political solution where both of them can have a government. But again, with the current government that we have in Israel now, this is not likely to happen. No problem, Larson. Yeah, thank you. Shukran, afwan. Truth alone, what do you foresee happening with the alleged upcoming Rafah assault? Well, if they do actually go ahead with it and they have intensified their actions in Rafah, it could potentially be a further humanitarian disaster. This is the thing that's going to be the worst thing of all. It's not the destruction of buildings, it's further suffering for people. You have almost 1 million in Rafah fleeing each and every other part of Gaza. There are some still in the north and all across, but the main bulk is in Gaza. The main aid starts to go in from Rafah. People try and access the aid immediately. If they want to go and conduct an operation in Rafah, and that operation will be severe, and it will be, if they do, there will be a lot of suffering for innocent Palestinian civilians. I don't expect that they will achieve much success when it comes to the resistance, because think about it this way. Their argument is that we want to attack them and their tunnel systems from Rafah to, from Egyptian Rafah to Gazan Rafah, from Egypt to Gaza, basically. Because Rafah is a city that is extended between Gaza and Egypt, by the way. If they haven't been able to take down the tunnels from the northern part of Gaza or from other parts of Gaza that they've been already in for 4 months, how on earth are they going to dismantle the tunnels in Rafah? Which also signals that their intention is not the tunnels and is not the Hamas. It's making the Palestinian lives as miserable as possible to expel them, to force them to flee. They'll probably take down the wall, have a strategic plan, and start pushing them onto Egypt. This is what they will most likely do. They're not interested in all of this, all of these things that they declare. They want to commit an ethnic cleansing. People need to constantly remember that. I mean, you know, some people already know it as a given, but they just want to completely expel the Palestinians, and they say it. They call them human animals, Amalek. We need to get rid of all of them. And they have officials saying we need to rebuild settlements in Gaza. Ben Gvir is saying we need to encourage them to leave. Imagine these, how evil these people are. Willful migration. There is no willful migration. There's forced migration. And you're trying to force them to migrate by committing all of these atrocities. And I hope we don't reach that stage, but if we do, it wouldn't look good. Mainly, and unfortunately for the Palestinian people. Shikana, was all this for nothing? Look, it's one of the most common comments whenever there's a war or losses or suffering. Was this all for nothing? No, nothing is for nothing. Everything happens for a reason, and everything that happens contributes to something else happening. The question is, how do you deal with it from a perspective of the Palestinians in Gaza and in the West Bank, across all of Palestine, and what action externally is taken? Because this has clearly shown that it doesn't only revolve around Palestine. It's the whole world that is supporting it, or what we call the world, like the clique of corrupt governments supporting it. So it wasn't for nothing, but obviously people mustn't expect immediate results. As with anything else in life, you can't expect immediate results to happen. Muhammad Ali, watching from Kenya, it's unbelievable the amount of awareness in my country compared to 2014 invasion of Gaza. I'm not surprised. Yeah, it's a global awareness campaign. What is the role of Turkey? It's very controversial. I mean, Turkey is a member of the NATO. Let's not forget that. They politically support the Palestinians, you know. But in terms of action, don't expect action. I know some people say, you know, they will enter. No country will enter as a country, in my opinion, unless there is a direct threat, a national threat on that country. The people who already wanted to participate directly, they are not directly representing a country unless you're talking about Yemen, and then obviously Yemen is split with two governments. But then, you have had Hamas start this, and then Hizbullah, the resistance movements in Iraq, they don't represent official Iraq, and Yemen, Ansarullah. As a matter of fact, if you take it this way, and if you consider the Houthi movement, Ansarullah, as the true representatives of Yemen rather than the other government, then that's the only government that intervened militarily. The others have done things under the table or supported financially. Maria Al-Khairi, appreciate your updates very much. Thank you. This Rafah strategy of Israel worries me because even though the USA doesn't support Israel hell-bent to destroy. Yes, and of course, yeah, and it's poor, from the US government. Just saying, okay, well, you're supporting them, force them to stop. You're taking military action in the Red Sea against people who have done nothing to you. So do you understand how they operate? Why don't you take military action to stop this genocidal satanic death cult? So if there are repeat questions, I'll just stick to the initial questions, like many asked about, like Turkey. And some also constantly mention the Arab states, and I'll repeat, it's similar to the other countries. They won't intervene. And the lack of intervention from Arab states is because they are strategically tied, most of them, with the United States, and they tied their fate, and they only listen to the United States, and they don't go outside that circle. And some are supporting Israel actively. Khalid Razzaq, do you feel the tide has turned yet? It's turning. It's turning. It definitely is turning. We have never seen such a level of awareness previously. And I think Israel, by what it's doing, I constantly repeat this, they did what no other Palestinian or pro-Palestinian organization has ever done in history, with the awareness campaign that's happening all across the globe now. Viviana, isn't raising the future of Gaza scheme a form of distraction from Israel losses on the military ground? Absolutely. That's a very smart observation. And, I've been talking about the fact that we should be talking about the day after Israel, not Gaza, because Israel is the problem. Apartheid is the problem. Hamas is a symptom. So, it's they definitely, this is what we should be talking about, the day after Israel, not the day after Gaza. But they do it psychologically to manipulate people, and it works on some people. But the Palestinians in Gaza are not buying it. Charito Munoz, YT censor trolls are deleting comments, but truth seekers have to speak in tongues. So yeah, I've had a couple of things on my channel. I don't like to talk too much about it, but what you need to do is really report any problems to YouTube, be proactive about it. And obviously, we don't want to use language that's inappropriate, whether for or against. People can still represent their case and their point of view without any harsh words or derogatory comments. Sailor Jerry, bless you, brother. Thank you so much. You're so kind. Condemn hummus. Trabzu, why did Blinken want to meet the military? Is there a coup brewing? I think there is definitely something going on. I mean, to be honest with you, I've been speaking about it ever since this genocide began. The level of conflicts internally, because they carried out this genocide. They went into this war after the judicial reform split. And with the judicial reform, the whole Israeli society was so split. And this continued or they hoped that they will unite the government and the people, but they haven't, clearly. And Netanyahu is the obstacle, as he was previously. This man led Israel to 7 elections because of his stubbornness to stay in the leadership of the Likud party in 6 years. At 5 of which were in about 4 years, by the way. When you talk about taking so much energy and resources from a country to go through so many ongoing elections, and now he's leading them to oblivion because of his stubbornness. And so, yeah, there might be a potential coup brewing, but I'm not sure how effective it will be in terms of reaching a true solution. It would be there to save Israel and preserve it as it is, as an apartheid supremacist state, not to reach an all-out solution. Hello to everyone saying hello, by the way. Wa alaikum salam. I'm sorry if I can't go through all of the names. Did you think the IDF will ever put down their weapons? That's from Sid. When they are born paranoid victims. Look, so many of them fled the war. So many refused to go to the war. And I mean, in my estimation, now we would have probably reached 3 million Israelis fleeing Israel altogether before and after the war. The majority of them after the war. Why are they fleeing? Because they don't want to serve in the army, because there's conscription. If you're called, you must serve. If you don't serve, you constantly go to prison. So it's a problem for them. It's indeed a problem. That's why they're dragging people from other countries too, but barely. Again, barely. We're talking about small amounts of people. They want to act like, people are coming from abroad to fight for us. Their own people are running away. And that's a main problem. That's a very serious problem. Antonia, police are clamping down on protests in the UK. How important do you think these protests across the world are, Mahmoud? I haven't seen them clamping down on protests in the UK. As a matter of fact, the British police in general, they've shown in very many cases, professionalism. And let's be fair, okay? I need to state this here. Sometimes people post things online, and you can criticize as much as you want, okay? But some people post clips, for example, of, let's say, a police officer going and telling someone to go on the side or whatever, and they haven't shown the whole clip, right? So we need to be careful with that. And don't forget, in the UK, the Home Secretary was fired because of trying to politicize the police too much. Let's not forget that. And she was the one enticing hatred and violence, and she led those far-right supremacists to go and attack the Memorial Weekend, right? They were saying, the people supporting Palestine, how can they, even though they weren't even near it. The extreme right wing ended up going and disturbing, acting violent and, bullyish. Whereas all of the pro-Palestinian protests, they're very peaceful. So I don't think they're clamping down. I think the government and the politicians are trying to push the police to clamp down. But thankfully, we still have separation of powers to an extent in the UK, and the government is still to an extent in check. To an extent, again, this is very important, because they are constantly trying to expand their reach on individual rights, on freedom of speech, freedom of thought, intimidating the public, scaring people off. Remember the early days of this war, where what the Home Secretary and what they used to say. We recommend people to not go and protest, like this Cleverly guy. I don't know who he thinks he is. And then you had Suella, right, who's off now, trying to scare people off. They think it would work, but people proved that this doesn't work. As a matter of fact, when I personally went to the first protest in London, I was surprised by the vast amount of people, and it was heartwarming to see. So I don't think they are clamping down, but the government is trying to push the police too. And hopefully, I hope they won't succeed, and that the police forces in the UK will remain professional and do their job. And their job is to implement the law, right? And that's another problem here. If the politicians start changing the law, and then the police will start enforcing new draconian laws. So that's another problem. That's why people need to keep speaking up about it. Minigla, thank you so much. Maya, thank you very much. Do you think Barghouthi will be released? Interesting. I mean, I think with the level of prisoners that Hamas have, I think they have a very good likelihood of releasing Marwan al-Barghouthi and other heavy Palestinian prisoners. The question is, how will Israel play it? Because both sides, they have their tricks when it comes to negotiations and stuff, but like Israel isn't like gonna completely say, okay, we'll release all of them. So it might be potentially as a final stage. Hamas, I assume that even if we're talking just about ifs now, because even this ceasefire that we're talking about might not go ahead. We might see an all-out escalation. The United States is bombing in Iraq. You know what I mean? They're adding fuel to the fire. But if something happens and we start the process, Hamas will probably keep the heavy Israeli commanders up until the last second to release the top Palestinian prisoners. But again, let's see, because there was hope that they would be released in the Gilad Shalit deal in 2011 and left people disappointed, which is what Israel wanted. They didn't want Hamas to be seen as a movement that looks out for all of the Palestinian prisoners, but rather a movement that stuck to its own ways. And Hamas obviously have shown the opposite. But I mean, there's a very high likelihood. Okay, let me just scroll back down. Up, sorry, just to see if I missed any questions. Kashmiri vlogs, Salam Habibi, why is the ICJ with the UN to send peacekeepers to protect the civilians? I assume you mean, why don't they send? Look, the United Nations is a US tool. The ICJ is the judicial organ of the United Nations. Expecting anything good out of them didn't bring us anywhere. In terms of the peacekeeping thing, both Hamas and Israel reject this idea. They don't want it, and they're not going to do much. Like, there's UN in Lebanon. Are they stopping Hizbullah from doing whatever they want in South Lebanon? No. Are they stopping Israeli aggressions against Lebanon? No. And Israel constantly attacks them. They kill hundreds of them. They attack their bases. They attack them multiple times in Lebanon. They had massacres in them. They attacked so many schools, shelters that belong to the UN in Gaza. So what are these peacekeepers going to... The only peacekeeping we can talk about is in action enforcement to stop this genocidal, satanic death cult in Israel. Muhammad Silmi, I want to know how many Israeli soldiers have been killed in Gaza. Let's be honest, Israeli states only 200. At least, in my humble opinion, 5,000. F. Mags, who do you think will fit the bill for rebuilding Gaza, and who will do the reconstruction? There are many sides to support Gaza, from the Arab world, from the Muslim world, from all across the world. Like some countries increase their support for the UNRWA. That Benjamin Netanyahu wants to dismantle, by the way. He wants to get rid of them. Why? Again, because they are a lifeline for the Palestinian people, and because they want to expel the Palestinian people from Gaza, That's why. But many other countries and international states will support. Abdul Malik, till what extent will the populations of, for example, Jordan or Iraq accept their government stance and illegal aggression on their soil? Do you think it will come to a boiling point? With the state itself, could be. I mean, like with Iraq, there isn't much in Jordan yet, but in Iraq, let me give you an example. Obviously, you have the state in Iraq and you have the armed movements. America, the United States administration, they say that they inform the Iraqi government whenever they want to conduct an operation against one of these movements. And the Iraqi government denies. Someone's lying. Is it someone in Iraq who's lying, or is the US lying? Reach a boiling point? I mean, it could potentially reach a boiling point, yes, but if things escalate even more than this, I mean, if you ask anyone on the street, do you want American forces here or Israeli occupation? They'll tell you, obviously, no. But many of the, Arab countries, they don't really represent most of their people. Let's not forget that. Mariam Masood, oh my God, I love your comments and analysis. The way you explain things and the thought process works perfectly to my spectrum brain. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. I'm a basic brownie at Melbourne University, and it's insane to see the Zionist control. Yeah, I know. I mean, they're even criticizing Israeli lecturers in Israel, in Israeli universities, and they're having fights with their students, by the way. You don't see that a lot, obviously, in Western mainstream media, but in Israeli media, they have lots of reports. Even people who simply show the level of disaster that's in Gaza, they'll tell them, oh, you're anti this, you're anti that. And greetings to everyone else, obviously, sending comments. I'm sorry if I'm unable to just read all of them. Revolution Radio. From a tactical point of view, Israel is defeated. Israel is defeated, yeah. I mean, when I started looking on the news on the 7th of October, I thought Israel ended on the day, as it is, as we know it, because, all the ways out are bad for Israel. And unfortunately, you don't have a political leadership that deals with the core root cause of the problem, which is apartheid and inequality. But from a military perspective, that was the biggest military defeat in the 21st century, man. A small group against, and obviously they focus in the Western media about the lies of the massacres that Israel conducted, whether it's in the Nova Festival or in Be'eri. And to this day, like the other day, there was an Israeli witness that was in one of the kibbutzes where 13 people were killed. 2 survived. She said they were killed from the Israeli tanks, and she's probably the 10th person to say that, by the way. Israel really has a lot of censorship with them. And we saw the helicopter images. But from a military perspective, that's why people avoid to say that. That's why I need to remind people that the massacres happened from Israel. Because from a military perspective, Hamas took down the whole Gaza division, one of the most advanced divisions, and they kidnapped many Israeli soldiers and commanders with their pants on, with their pajamas on in a few hours, and they took control of Israeli territory, which they were expelled from, by the way. When Hamas opened the borders on the day, normal civilians started going in and crying, saying, my land, my country, I haven't seen my village for 75 years. Right? This is what happened on the 7th of October. There's so much misinformation about it. And from a military perspective, it was a massive humiliation for Israel. Marvin Vergas, do you think international force of Russia, China, India will intervene to stop the genocide? No, as long as it doesn't affect their national security. Dan Jones, hi Mahmoud, great content, brother, as always. Are there any signs of opposition to the war in Israel? Thank you for that, firstly. Yes, there are, and there have been since the beginning, but Israel suppressed these voices. There are protests in Israel calling to end the genocide, for example, from Israeli Jews, right? There are many protests from people who want to stop the war. On the other hand, there are people who constantly want to continue the war, and they're having infighting between them. Like the other day, there was a guy who was beating up a family member of someone who's still in Gaza, who was kidnapped, and telling them, how dare you stop the war? Ask to stop the war. They want to wipe down Gaza. Let's see any other questions. And greetings and peace on everyone who is greeting. Mahmoud, I'm guessing, has a UK education. No. I just went to schools in Israel. In Israel, you have mostly Arab and mostly Jewish schools. It's very segregated in terms of education. It's deliberately done by Israel, by the way, to prevent people from mingling and understanding about the history, because Israel raises their population on the narrative of Israel. You know, we came to a land without people, to people without a land, and they want to keep them in that Zionist mind frame for as long as possible. But people in like mixed cities, they mingle and they start knowing more. But no education in the UK, no. I haven't went to uni in the UK or anything. Okay, let me just scroll down to see if you have any more questions here. Julius, Mahmoud Netanyahu brought 5 red cows to Israel to offer it by the third temple. Are you not afraid this war would accelerate this? They have the red cows from a very long time ago. And for you who don't know, the radical kind of messianic groups in Israel, they want to take down Al-Aqsa and rebuild what they call the temple, even though they have no historical evidence that the temple was there. As a matter of fact, I also spoke about them, the Samaritans, the Shomronim. They consider Temple Mount to be in Har Gerizim in the West Bank, not in Jerusalem, not in Al-Aqsa. So according to their prophecies, they will have a red cow. So to prepare the prophecy and make sure that the prophecy will work, they have the red cows already. And from Israel, they didn't bring it. showed red cows in one of the Israeli farms, and they were breeding to get a pure red cow in one of the farms in Israel, actually. And there was an Israeli report about it almost 7 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. Muhammad Silmi, hi, I'm from a village called Beit Hanina. Yeah, I know Beit Hanina. Marvin Verkas, how come no attacks by Hamas troops in Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, Haifa are the occupying not reported? It's because they don't have, like, Hamas mainly operates in Gaza. There is no organized militant group inside of Israeli territories. And they haven't had many. I mean, many of these attacks, like if you see like stabbings or whatever, most of them will be by individuals. Some of them will claim that they belong to a group, but I'm not sure how organized that is really. Amir Khan, thank you, brother. Thank you so much. Very kind of you. Mahdi, I'm based in the UK, Mahdi. Yes, exactly. Oh, someone already answered. Okay. You know me by now. Okay. Is there any chance that Gaza will drops in the hands of the PA, Mahdi, again? I don't think so. And I'll tell you why. When you say the PA, you mean the Fatah-led PA in the West Bank going and leading Gaza. I mean, this notion, number one, and we need to kind of be clear about that. The notion that there should be something in Gaza that is not agreed on from the Gazan population, that the Gazan population did not choose, is something that shouldn't even be spoken about. Now, there are talks. Obviously, Mahmoud Abbas is going tomorrow to Qatar, according to reports in Israel, to most likely meet with Hamas leadership to see if they can reach a unity government. The Palestinian movements have been trying to do these reconciliations for the past 17 years. The fact of the matter is you have two very, very different roots. You have Hamas, a movement that is an all-out national liberation movement by any means necessary, and you have the PA led by Mahmoud Abbas. They're purely anti any armed resistance, and they have collaborations with Israel. How do you combine the two? They tried to make a unity government after the elections in 2006. And for those of you who don't know, Hamas won the elections in 2006. They participated for the first time. And then they offered a national unity government in Gaza and the West Bank. But the Fatah movement, who were aligned with Israel mostly, they started to ask for key positions that are sensitive, dealing with security, foreign affairs, all of these things. Hamas obviously gave them some positions, but they told them, like, key positions, we have to be in control. We got the majority. Obviously, it exploded eventually. There were some people who actually belonged to Israel, started to stir more problems. They tried to talk it through. It didn't work out. And then by the end of it, Hamas called Al-Qassam brigades to bring an end to it. And they completely got rid of the rebellion and just said, well, that's it. No more fighting. We're the government. After all of the talks and constant back and forth attacks, Israeli meddling too. They obviously tried to reach a solution, and many countries tried to mediate. Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Algeria, many countries. It didn't work. Will it work now? I mean, does even Mahmoud Abbas have any backing? You know, the Palestinian president in the West Bank. People, people are against him from within. So, are you talking about bringing him back to Gaza? Bro, the people of Gaza will probably expel him. Do you know what I mean? So, it's not very probable that they will actually have a role. They don't deserve to have a role unless we're talking about elections. And for there to be elections, you need to liberate your lands. If you're talking about a two-state solution, that's inimplementable, in my opinion. So it's like I said, the shortcut of the story is just dismantle apartheid and implement equality. That's as simple as it gets, really. Irma Galvan. After the ceasefire, will the violent Israelis be handled on the West Bank? I don't think so. They let them do whatever they want in the West Bank. Even the Israeli army supports them, and that's also a targeted campaign. People need to understand that to make Palestinian lives miserable, obviously they ban them from going to Israel and tell them, go to Jordan. And they talk about it. Israeli leaders talk about these things. And all of what they're doing in Gaza is an ethnic cleansing campaign, like what they did in 1948. Chris Munakash question: do you think the end of this war will be detrimental to the Palestinian cause, since the world will stop focusing on them and things will go back to the occupation status quo? People forget quickly. Interesting observation. If things de-escalate, there's a potential that it will slowly, now if you see Western mainstream media, many of them are not talking as if nothing is happening. But if a cat dies in a country that they don't like, they will have 10,000 cameras on it and focus on the scratched foot of the cat. But in Gaza, no, they don't focus from now. However, what happened now created an international movement that is more aware, that knows more. Many of the people who are already active, including myself, won't stop to be active if this genocide ends. I mean, let's hope and pray that it will end with a good, just solution for everyone. But if it doesn't, then we will continue to talk about it. Like before this war, I used to regularly post up about the people and what they go through in the West Bank, for example. Because like the day-to-day things, people weren't even thinking of them. Like the suffering, the lack of freedom of movement, all of these things. So there is a risk, but I think this time the only difference is that there is so much awareness that it's very difficult, very, very difficult to put it down completely. And like, if you're watching me now, if you're listening to me, you're probably not really listening to Sky News that much, or Fox or CNN. We'll continue talking for as much as possible. And the people's distrust in mainstream media is a key thing to continue this going. So we will continue, and everyone should continue. People shouldn't be apathetic. But again, no one should expect immediate results. It's not natural to have immediate results for anything in life, whether you're, working out, or whether you're for financial purposes, career, studying. Nothing happens immediately, let alone a conflict that's been happening for 75 years now, that have people behind it with the most advanced powers in terms of military and financially. It's not an easy thing. But if you look at in history, like the French Revolution, 70 years. Algeria, to liberate themselves from the French, 1 million martyrs and many, many years, right? So in Palestine, it's the same thing. It's an ongoing thing. There's a name here, I'm not sure. Paul Dorhan, I think. Thanks, Mahmoud, for all your info. I saw a video of Israel is attacking 8 trucks in Rafah. Perhaps they didn't want Blinken and his media entourage seeing that. Maybe, but they have a problem with Blinken. And they attacked the 8 truck of the UNRWA trying to go to the north of Gaza. They bombed it. It reminded us of the initial days of this genocide when they were bombing trucks full of people fleeing North Gaza to the south. It was recorded, children. They landed a bomb on a truck carrying children. What are they called? A satanic death cult. That's how they operate. Let me try and see some more messages here. Master without master, can you comment about the people in the West Bank? What about Mahmoud Abbas after the war? Any sign of overthrown? Look, there's tensions, but if he's going to be overthrown, he's going to be overthrown by someone within rather than the people, because they're already talking about the day after him. And there are many people inside the West Bank and outside the West Bank who are interested. Like one of the main people outside the West Bank is someone called Muhammad Dahlan, who ran some of the security services in Gaza and was expelled after Hamas took control. So not necessarily the people, but probably from within, because it's a police state, the West Bank, from the Palestinian Authority and from Israel. Madani Butaba, how much does Israel know about internal Palestinian politics? Very much. They're very well aware, Israel, about internal politics, and they have very good intel and people working for them. And hello and greetings to everyone. By the way, sorry if I'm not looking because I'm just focusing on the questions. Assalamu alaikum from Iran, Hamid Sadiqi, and from the US and California. Hello to all of you. Deep 007, do you think Hamas still has hostages, and where Israel said 31 dead? That's a very conservative figure from Israel. There are at least 70 killed by Israel. And most of them were killed in the initial bombings, over 50 in the first 3 weeks. And people who were really, like the first one who was released by as a humanitarian gesture from Hamas, by the way, Yocheved Lifshitz. Israel didn't want to take her. Hamas ended up giving her to Egypt, and Egypt gave her to Israel. She had a press conference that Israel regrets to this day and called at the time kind of like an attack, a Hasbara attack on us. She said that Israel was bombing them all along. Israel was bombing them through every single step they were going. Israel wanted to kill every single hostage. You had that. She confirmed that. And many people were killed. Others who were released confirmed the same thing. They killed, and the mother of the person confirmed this, 3 Israeli soldiers in a tunnel when they killed one of the Al-Qassam member leaders with a gas bomb. I had a video about this a couple of weeks ago. They killed the 3 soldiers who were imprisoned by Hamas when they were trying to flee and held white flags. They killed them, they shot them, and they were speaking in Hebrew and they were holding signs. So they want to kill all of them. And they're so stupid that they kill the people fleeing to them too. Imagine how stupid and disorganized and such a failed army they have. But if they were interested in releasing all of their prisoners in Gaza alive, they wouldn't have bombed Gaza. And this is the main thing. They wouldn't have bombed Gaza because Israelis could be anywhere in Gaza. This just shows that this is a war machine, a killing machine that kills itself, its people. It's a death machine. If they knew that Israelis were and could be in any part of Gaza, why on earth would you flatten Gaza? Because you didn't care about your own people's lives, about your own soldiers' lives. Anyone with a third of a brain wouldn't do such a thing. From a military perspective, threaten Hamas. Like if anyone decent was running Israel, okay, Hamas did something and they attacked us and they this and that, unprecedented. But this is why they acted out of vengeance and hate. Threaten the Hamas. Firstly, tell them, get out of all of the territories that you got in Israel. Give them an ultimatum. If you don't withdraw, for example, that's if anyone sane was leading Israel. Withdraw from all Israeli territories within 48 hours or whatever. If we find out after 48 hours, for example, that you're still inside of Israeli territory, we'll have a heavy concentrated attack on certain locations or whatever. Then Hamas doesn't listen. You attack certain locations that you know, military targets, but clearly they don't have a clue on military targets, and Hamas, everything is under the ground. But again, that's why their actions are clear as daylight. They're against the civil population. They don't care. They just a neo-colonialist, genocidal, killing death machine. That's what they are. They'll kill their own people. So there are many people who were killed by Israel, but Hamas still has many of them because we're 4 months in, and they apparently did campaigns against the tunnels, and look at the failure. Do you know what I mean? So Hamas, they have very secretive tunnels for the most important hostages to Hamas, who are primarily active military members, not just the civilians, because some of the civilians were in actual homes above the ground. That's how they were killed, because of Israel bombings. Umi, does Hamas have female fighters among their ranks? I'm sure they do. Yeah, they showed like videos of female division that they had previously. The Orthodox Jews are correct on telling the truth about their religion being misrepresented by Zionism. Yeah, many Orthodox Jews say that. Many of them are in Israel, in Me'ah She'arim, in Jerusalem, and in other parts too. But many of them outside Israel are very, very vocal critics of Zionism. And indeed, Zionism has no roots in Judaism. It's a movement that was initiated by people who were atheists, but they used Judaism as a facade front, in many ways as something anti-Jewish, if you ask me. I mean, there's nothing more anti-Jewish than Israel. Thank you for all of your greetings, by the way, nice comments. I'm just scrolling through all of them to try and see if you have any more questions. Hi, Tillis. Yes, I no longer watch mainstream media. It's been since October that I watched any of it other than by mistake. Me too, to be honest with you, because it's like you're watching an alternative reality. If there's anything they tell you, they coat it with 1 million layers of lies. Ari Magoo, truth, Mahmoud. Thank you. We're trying to say the truth. Ari Magoo, what views on Al Jazeera? Well, there's a difference, number one, between Al Jazeera in Arabic and in English. Boy, is there a difference. And it seems like the people who gave Al Jazeera authority or rights to have their networks in the West, for example, in English, they clearly had deadlines, because Al Jazeera in Arabic is completely different. And they're by Qatari government, so Qatari government funded. But they try and kind of post everything to do with, like, for example, the Palestinian resistance. But at the same time, Al Jazeera will bring very radical Israeli figures to them. And that potentially is, in a way, to allow them to operate as they are, to present what's happening to an extent on the ground. And obviously in Gaza, they do, the reporters in Gaza do a massively great job. In Israel, for example, they're very restricted. They're warned to not cross the lines. But yeah, I think, we should be critical of anyone and anything we hear, including Al Jazeera, including me as well, Rifat Azad, any evidence of US, UK special forces in Gaza? Well, in the early days, there was a report that a Delta force went in with the IDF, and they were killed, all of them, approximately 20. No, I mean, the resistance posted a couple of things about people speaking foreign languages and stuff, and it could be dual nationals too. I mean, we haven't seen like lots of actual evidence of like units that are not belonging to the Israeli army active, unless they were in IDF uniform and, hit it really well. But I'm not sure who has any ounce of brain who would want to go and fight for Israel, or for any are in the UK or the US. Now they've moved politically. An army is supposed to defend the nation. It's not supposed to oppress and be a politically and financially motivated tool, which is what most armies are at the moment in the US, in the UK, in other countries as well. But mostly, if we talk about the US and the UK, they're the biggest killers in the 21st century. Afghanistan, Iraq. What did you go and do there? Defend England or defend Washington, maybe? You went there to cause havoc, steal the oil. I mean, we've had reports in Afghanistan that the CIA used to fly tens of tons of poppy seeds in CIA planes. And they went out then as if nothing happened. Can you please share your resources for the 5K bomb statement? Yeah, if you go through research Burkan missile for Hizbullah, it has a warhead. It's a short-range missile with a warhead of anything between 300 to 500 kilograms. Off topic, yeah, and I'll take that as a final question. And you're welcome, obviously, everyone, thanking me and sending good comments. Afusat, thank you very much. Off topic, but what's your take on Tucker Carlson interviewing Putin? I was actually thinking of posting a video about my thoughts about that. But in short, I think, firstly, it's shameful that it's shameful and draconian for countries who call themselves free countries and call for freedom of speech to ban Russia from talking. That's number one. We've had the RT banned for several years now. How could that be acceptable? And that's a good move, because you need to hear them. Why did they ban RT? Because they didn't want their populations finding out the truth about all of their lies and fake agendas in Ukraine. Government buildings, they have the Ukrainian flag. You know, many places here, Ukrainian flags everywhere. Where's your Palestinian flag? Support Ukraine, support Ukraine. Are you supporting the Ukrainian people by feeding this conflict? Or are you going out against Russia as a country? Ukrainian politicians, in terms of state, right? Because obviously the people suffer. So we support the Ukrainian people and the Russian people and all of the basic people who want to live. But when you talk about on a government level, Ukraine is the most corrupt country in Europe. Like the funding that they get now from the West, they go and resell it in the black market. Many of these weapons that they get, they sell them to other countries. They make money. So I think it's good. It's important to know what they think about, hear their point of view. It's important to hear everyone's point of view and make your mind up, right? But those who are afraid of the truth don't want you to make your mind up. That's why they censor them. They're not pro-liberty, pro-freedom of speech. Well, they're none of that. Like we had Yair Lapid, who was a journalist for all of his life, ladies and gentlemen, in Israel. When the war began, he said, you cannot be objective. Being objective is siding with the Hamas. You should only show what we tell you. I mean, really, they don't want that. They don't want freedom of thought, freedom of speech. They don't want people making their mind up. They want you to be puppets and ignorance and sheep so that they can control you and manipulate you and do whatever the hell they want across the world. And you're scared, sitting like this and oh my God, and being afraid to express yourself, being afraid to go outside of the mainstream narrative. All of these things. Imagine how much fear they put in people who try to put fear in people, in fear of them attacking, what Israel's doing in Gaza. How much? This whole campaign in Britain, for example, is trying to scare people off. And some people, the sheeple, will be scared, but not us. We won't be scared, ya habibi. We're not scared of you or from anyone. We say the truth as it is, and we will continue to present the truth as it is. And we will end it here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me. It was really nice chatting to you. I'm planning to make this live, by the way, every single night at 10 p.m. I'll have another short video, most likely, if I can. If I cannot, but I'll do my best to. Yeah, every single day, 10 p.m. Thank you so much for joining me, every single one of you. I'm sorry if I didn't mention all of the names, obviously, because I just try and reach the comments and the questions for everyone, obviously, listening to this or watching this after it was live stream. Albert, thank you so much for your contribution. Everyone, thank you for the super thanks, and thank you for all of your comments. Thank you for all of your questions and for being with me. I love you more, all of you, and I will see you hopefully tomorrow. Have a good evening, good night, good day, depending on where you are. Take care. Bye.